Judicial Watch has uncovered new evidence of how the federal government executed a censorship operation during the 2020 election. Under the scheme, state election officials flagged online content deemed, quote, misinformation and sent it to Homeland Security, the Homeland Security funded Center for Internet Security, and several other partners. They flagged content, including tweets about irregularities concerning mail-in voting. Judicial Watch's Chris Farrell is with us tonight to talk about this important story about transparency and security in our elections. Chris is board member of Judicial Watch, director of investigations and research. And Chris, great to have you with us as always. If you will, bring us up to date on all of the material that you're gathering up through FOIA and various other enterprises.
Well, I think the most important thing recently is continuing to document the really perverse relationship between Homeland Security, the so-called Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, and the relationship of those two government agencies with their pet, supposedly outside advisory groups that were busy suppressing information, censoring people, not allowing any sort of discussion of things that might be disturbing to the regime, whether that's the stolen election in 2020 or anything having to do with COVID or any other sort of one of the propaganda points that they were not comfortable with. We now have, reams and reams of paperwork, all kinds of emails of them suggesting to each other who should be shut down, what stories should be suppressed. And it's really a very cozy little clique of people that all sort of know each other and promote each other. And the bottom line is the average American at home trying to get up to date on the news, sort of follow information, was being manipulated and lied to. And the government was controlling what was news and what was permissible to discuss.
We have a surveillance state. We also have a censorship state, and now there's no question about it. It's ugly, it's pervasive. Just some of the acronyms, if I could. Internet Security Operation, the Center for Internet Security, CIS. Then you have CISA, the Center for Infrastructure. Let me get back to that. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And by the way, CISA, as we all know, its original purported purpose was to be a support for local elections and local election systems that were being hacked by foreign actors. It is the farthest thing from its principal role. It's just crazy what we've seen this government metastasize into.
Right. You'll recall there was also this effort to create basically a ministry of truth, right, where they were going to establish what was dis, and malinformation. That went through 2 or 3 cycles and is still on the books. I mean, they now call it something else, but essentially the same functions are being done by the same government bureaucrats. And then they prop up these phony organizations like the Election Integrity Project, which is supposed to be, once again, a public-private partnership. And whenever you hear that expression, public-private partnership, think fascism, right? That's what it is.
You're exactly right.
Very, very cozy relationships with sort of, supposedly outside independent groups, but they're really sort of little, cheerleaders and precious little pets of the government agencies who, it gives the government agency an excuse to say, well, it's not us saying you can or can't do this. We have outside experts, and they're the ones who told us what to look at and suppress or to censor in some way.
Yeah. The idea that these advisory groups somehow give them some sort of imprimatur of nonpartisanship. It's really a non-ideological fervor. We are watching a government that has become something so ignorant, so corrupt, that I don't know how we unwind this. First step is, of course, to get Donald Trump elected. But I mean, the real work starts after that, I think. What do you
It
think?
really does. But when you scroll through and you look at all these different groups, even like these phony supposed outside advisory groups, and you look at their board of directors and their leadership and all the who's who and what's what, it's all lefties.
Uh, to get rid of CISA, however you want to say it, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Agency, uh, it should take nothing more than just to defund them. And by the way, the Republican Congress should have done it early and often,
Of course.
across the board, and of course they didn't. But they're going to. It looks like they're going to have an opportunity. But I would say that given all of the investment that they've got in this, they're building backstops and short circuits all around through the government to make certain that at least the Ministry of Truth exists in some fashion or form. It's going to take a robust effort, to say the least, and one that the Republicans have never mounted. Well, perhaps they did in the era of Ronald Reagan. They moved into the Carter administration, but he had only 4 years to build that up. That is Carter. They dismantled it relatively quickly, but I don't know what it's going to take now. So what do you think? There are so many moving parts in this thing that it's outrageous to try to keep up with it. And of course, that's part of the design. That's part of their purpose is to make certain that there are so many parts moving that you can identify one or the other at any given moment.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're faced with now, of course, is it's the third Obama administration, the third term of fundamental transformation. And what he promised on, he delivered on. And remember, in the world of politics and the history of politics, the only type of government that enacts fundamental transformation are totalitarian governments. Those are the only ones that subscribe to that ideology, that methodology of ruling or controlling. And so now we're faced with a situation where you've got 8 years of Obama, there's a backlash in the Trump years, but then look, they consolidated very quickly and did everything they could to steal that election and knock Trump out. Now Trump has to overcome their efforts, 12 years of work now, plus an effort to jail him. And then when he gets back into office, talk about having to unwind, incredible damage that's been done. And even if he's successful, even if he comes in and says, all right, fine, we're not even going to have a CISA organization. They're going to engage in lawfare. They're going to find people that are going to say, oh, I'm being harmed because I don't know how to understand the internet. In some way I've been damaged and I'm going to sue and I'm going to demand that you reinstate this kind of stuff. This is what the left does. They do it all the time.
Well, they've done one thing certainly very well, and that's cheat.
Yes.
They reversed history in 2020. What is your sense as to how successful they'll be this year? You follow these things closely. I don't see there being anything but a perhaps insurmountable lead on the part of the Mark Eliases and the Marxist Dem Party ahead of the party, unfortunately, there can't be a countervailing influence because it is so feeble, it is so effete that they cannot operate on the level that the Marxist Dems do.
Yeah, well, remember, Marxists and the left, they, number one is power. Power drives everything. They will do anything, say anything, act on anything to consolidate and increase power. So that's their playbook. And if you think that they're suddenly not going to do that, or in some way they're going to abandon that principle, then you're delusional. The only thing they understand and the only thing that they strive for and seek to consolidate is power. So if power is the driver, And the right is busy doing Marquis of Queensberry rules. They're going to get leveled, and so we have to anticipate a tremendous amount of cheating. We have to anticipate efforts to jail Trump as much and as often as humanly possible. You're going to hear a drumbeat of him being a criminal over and over again. And this is a tough battle, and it is not for the faint of heart. This is raw politics, like we've never seen in this country.
And we left out one part of the equation here today. We'll take it up next time. But that is the national corporate media. They are an important element of this assault on America, because they and their refusal to cover the news objectively and honestly, impartially, has stripped this country of one of its great stalwarts and guardians, and that is the Fourth Estate. It is no more, and we have to understand that. Thanks so much, Chris, for being with us, and as always, instructive and helpful, and we appreciate it.